Islands, enriching our shared civic life. And whereas residents of Ferguson Township, whether recent arrivals or generations rooted here, reflect this diversity and contribute to a vibrant, connected, and welcoming community. And whereas people of Asian and Pacific Islander heritage make up a meaningful and growing part of the township's population and strengthen our community through leadership, creativity, scholarship, entrepreneurship, and public service. And whereas members of the Asian Pacific Islander Desi American community are our friends, neighbors, colleagues, and family, and their presence deepens the cultural and social fabric of Ferguson Township. And whereas on April 18, 2026, the Central County community gathered at the Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Plaza for the 4th annual APIDA Festival, a vibrant spring festival celebration organized by the Penn State APIDA Caucus in collaboration with the Penn APIDA Circle, the Paul Robeson Cultural Center, and the Borough of State College in honor of Asian American, Native Hawaiian, Pacific Islander Heritage Month. And whereas during this year of the 250th anniversary of independence of the United States, we reaffirm our commitment to stand against racism, xenophobia, and discrimination in all forms, and to uphold a community where every person is treated with dignity, respect, and belonging. And whereas the Ferguson Township Board of Supervisors do hereby proclaim May 2026 as Asian American, Native Hawaiian, Pacific American Heritage Month in Ferguson Township, and encourage all residents to celebrate the history, culture, and contributions of Asian Pacific Americans, to engage with the community events, and to strengthen our shared commitment to inclusion and belonging.
All right, thank you.
Motion to approve?
Motion, okay, got one by Ms. Stevens. Do we have a second?
This is Matt, I'll second.
Second by Mr. Heller. I want to take time to, want to thank you for reading the proclamation, but also take time to recognize Nalini Krishakati and everyone from Panapita Circle and other special guests tonight. If you wanted to provide any remarks or
Thank you. Thank you so much for that proclamation. My name is Nalini Krishnankuti, and I am a resident of State College and a State College Borough Council member, and along with many of my friends here, a founding member of the Panapita Circle, which is a community group. This year, I just wanted to briefly mention to all of you that there is a theme that has been picked up by a national organization, which usually picks the theme for this Heritage Month. And the theme that's been picked for this year is Power in Unity, Strengthening Communities Together. And they picked this theme because they thought about how communities build bridges with each other, and it highlights the importance of leveraging our collective power, telling our stories, and being bridge builders. The imagery of the bridge, according to the organization, inspires us to unite in common causes and also invites us to honor leaders from all communities who inspire us to work collaboratively. And I feel this is very significant, especially in our 250th year of independence, giving us an opportunity to honor the historic and current day contributions of all our residents. And one of the things I wanted to highlight, the proclamation mentioned APIDA Fest, and one new thing that we did this year as part of the celebration of both the Heritage Month as well as the 250th anniversary was to ask students in pre-K to grade 12 to submit art and writing in response to the prompt, what does a just, inclusive, and hopeful future look like to you? And we got several responses, and some of these the reflections from our youngest residents regarding their cultural identity, historical memory, visions of the future. They're currently exhibited in the lobby of the State College Borough, as well as in the Teen Create area of the SCLO Center Region Library. And so I'd encourage all of you to go by and take a look. It should be up for the month of May. And it's just very amazing. There's hope. You know, our kids are showing us the way. So thank you. I will pass it on.
Thank you, Melody, and to the board. My name is Shobha Sivaprasad Wadia. I am an 18-year resident of Ferguson Township. And this year, as I reflect on the month, I am reflecting on belonging. Citizenship has long been a mark of belonging in the United States, and I have really been privileged to witness hearts swell at naturalization ceremonies and to also listen to the stories of my family members and my clients about their experiences, both as a child of immigrants from India and as an immigration attorney for the last 25 years. The history of citizenship is fraught. Only in 1965 did Congress open the doors for immigration from Asia. The next history chapter on citizenship will be guided by an executive order that seeks to limit birthright citizenship to those who are born to a parent who is a green card holder or U.S. citizen parent. That is an impact that will be a sea change on Asian individuals if enacted. The legality of the birthright citizenship order is pending currently before the U.S. Supreme Court and is centered on a 19th century case called Wong Kim Ark. He was a Chinese cook born in the United States to Chinese parents who lived in San Francisco. He was detained upon his return from a visit to family in China. This happened during the peak of anti-Asian sentiment and during the time of the Chinese Exclusion Act. The Supreme Court in 1898 issued a landmark decision, concluding that the 14th Amendment's language of citizenship to all persons born or naturalized in the United States applies to people like Wong Kim Ark. It was a over 1 century old recognition of birthright citizenship. The current case before the Supreme Court will be a test to belonging for Asian Americans and beyond. This month, I ask that we honor the history and people on whose backs we are able to celebrate, commit to the rule of law, and focus on belonging that exists beyond a piece of paper. Thank you.
Thank you, supervisors and staff members and those watching on Zoom. My name is Haesun Kim. I'm a resident of Half Moon Township for 21 years, and I'm a natural citizen. I spent more years in America than in Korea. And so as we celebrate America 250, I actually had a mission. So how can we, as we are preparing for the Spring Festival, how can we celebrate America 250? And Nalini and I were thinking about, we gotta come up with something special, something fun. And I was searching, and last year I took my students to Philadelphia, and there was a Liberty Bell. Okay, so there's a Liberty Bell. I like flowers. So basically, I bought a flower map, walled flower map from Etsy store, and printed it out, and wooden cutout Liberty Bell of different sizes. So at the Spring Festival, I asked people to stop by. What's your heritage? By the way, do you know the national flower of America? Some people didn't know it's rose. And so I asked people find the places you've been to, or your national heritage. And everyone stopped by, they cut out color, and they come up with their own flower liberty bell. I was so happy to be able to produce a fun activity, and Nalini gave me a America 250 pin, so I own my pin. I'm so happy. And with the theme going on, actually, we've been collaborating with the school library since 2021. And this year, I'm pushing the America 250 celebration. So on May 31st, we have children's event planned. And on January, actually, there was a exhibition showcasing Korean moon jar. So when you see this, some of you call this like a flower jar, flower pot. I call this a moon jar. So the participants will fold moon jar, and also they will be replicating another fun Liberty Bell flower decoration. Another one is, last year, I was very fortunate to bring my sister-in-law, who is an artist, and her husband, and we had a letter from Korea Contemporary Art Exhibition. And this artist, Taylor Moon, she saw the artwork, and she reached out to Belfast Art Museum. So month of May and June, her artwork is showing at Belfast Art Museum. It's called Identity Playground. And her heritage is Korean and Paraguay. And I'm so happy that we have a Belfast Art Museum and school that help us to engage with the community members. So thank you so much.
All right. I was going to say, if you had a moment and you wanted to, we can recess, get some photos, and then we'll reconvene. Probably take about 5 minutes. I think we're good. Okay, gonna reconvene. Thank you again for your remarks. We do have a motion on the table, so all those in favor of adopting the proclamation, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, say no. Okay. Proclamation has been adopted. I thank you for joining us. Yes, Mr. Heller.
I just want to say sincerely thank you for coming out this evening and delivering the proclamation and allowing us the space to go ahead and proclaim it. Folks may not know this. You see, from my experience, you see a middle-aged white guy sitting up here. I was actually born and raised my early childhood in the Virgin Islands. So hearing from children, diversity, inclusion, belonging. That was the way that I grew up. And for children to see that diversity in our community is so important. So again, thank you for coming out this evening, and I wish you a wonderful month in the proclamation.
Thank you. All right. Before we get on to public comment, for those that may be joining us either on channel 4 or through YouTube, just had a little bit of a delay getting on, but I think we are online now. So thank you for your patience. Still got plenty of the meeting to go, and you can always catch up on what you might have missed on CNET through the recording later. Next up, any public comment in the room or online? Seeing none, no public comment. So next I'll take a motion to approve the minutes from the May 5th meeting.
This is Patty, so moved.
And do we have a second?
Zumari, second.
Got a motion by Ms. Stevens, second by Mr. Patterson. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed say no. All right. Next is reports and presentations. We'll start with the wonderful annual municipal separate storm sewer system MS4 presentation by Adam Willis. And I will recognize the township manager.
Yeah, Mr. Willis is here with us tonight to give us this annual presentation, and I'll turn it over to him.
All right.
Just slide.
Okay. Well, thank you. As Jeremy alluded, it is that time of year for the annual MS4 presentation, and I will be doing my best to fill in for Ron with these years. So we do have some different news. Actually, there is a portion of this presentation that is out of date at the end of it. We did receive our new MS4 permit actually today, officially, which is good. So we'll talk about that a little later in the presentation, if you want to. First, I was going to go through with the overview of the program, the scope and definitions, the program requirement. Then we're going to end with the status of the township permit, which is what I alluded to, and then as well as future permit requirements going forward. As you by now mostly know, the system contains all non-sewer pipes that discharges to waters within the township, Spring Creek, Slab Run, Beaver Branch, and their unnamed tributaries. And this system is the one that is mapped and we have been utilizing. It's updated as we go, but it has not changed substantially since the version in use in previous permits. We do now, previously we've been doing the maps as PDFs. They are now annually maintained through a GIS viewer on our website. Which are based then on the 2010 census urban area. It's the direction that urban area will still govern our now till 2031 boundary and application of MS4 from DEP, despite being a little outdated at this point, though there were no major changes in it between 2020. The requirements for the next permit term, which as I alluded to, will now go from 2026 to 2031, will be to maintain and enforce our stormwater ordinance, implement the same 6 MCMs that I will go over later in the presentation that you are familiar with from our previous permits, with what I would say very minor, if at all, changes. Track and document our MCM maintenance as well as inspections of SCMs, and prepare our annual reports. As you may remember from our previous PRP plan, going through here, we had to develop a PRP plan. This led to the development of PRP projects. The projects were accepted in late 2025 with DEP with no question or major comments, meaning that PRP plan, aside from any operational O&M, is essentially, I don't want to say done, but over. There will be no new requirements for it in the 2026 to 2031 plan outside of the maintenance of the projects constructed either with the Beaver Branch stream restoration or any obligations that arose from the duck pond project. As part of the annual presentation to go through for the reminder of the NCMs, these are in order, and by the numbers we refer to them, it's the public outreach and education, involvement and participation as part of this night. Listed discharge, detection and elimination, construction, stormwater runoff, post-construction stormwater management, and good housekeeping and pollution prevention. Public education and outreach. These are ones that we still continue to follow through from our previous goals. We obviously develop and maintain written outreach plans, target audience identification, and send out educational material, as well maintaining our portion of the website, social media posts on stormwater, newsletter articles, and our participation with the Spring Creek Watershed Association and then Clearwater Conservancy for the Ring Barrel Workshops all help to satisfy this requirement. Our public involvement, this kind of public involvement I've always thought, and the MCM 1 and 2 kind of tend to overlap with each other a little bit as far as the state's required. But one of the newer items, if you see the inlet stenciling or medallion program, we do have medallions for our inlets, and we are in the works of partnering with Spring Creek Watershed to find volunteers to install them on the inlets that have been purchased and are in storage. And as part of the public involvement, we are having this presentation and meeting today. One of the largest and most active of these is the illicit discharge and detection program. Fortunately, with the age of the infrastructure in Ferguson, we do not have a significant number of these. Certain older municipalities and industrial bases have this plays a much larger role. For our purposes of satisfying this, we maintain our MS4 map, and every 5 years we're required to inspect our outfalls. As we are going, we will probably be shooting for 20% a year, so that at the end of the 5-year term, we've satisfied that requirement. There are no changes that will require for our illicit discharges for the 2024 ordinance to be updated that I'm aware of at this time. Going through these, I'm obligated to say what is an illicit discharge. It is anything other than stormwater with few exceptions. Most of those exceptions get into a very highly technical rule. Is a swimming pool dechlorinated or chlorinated? Is it washed down water from contaminated from AC units or not? In general, they can be delivered or accidental. Again, as I said, this one we typically do not have, fortunately, many problems with. If you want to go forward, James. Moving on to our construction stormwater runoff, this is one of our requirements that we handle through our use of our partnerships. When we signed our MOU with the County Conservation District, we enforce this in tangent with that, with the County Conservation District, and through our subdivision and land development process. If you want to. And then our fifth is to maintain the post-construction BMP facilities. The first step is obviously the inventory of all these facilities, ensure O&M is occurring both on township-owned and private regulated facilities, and document our inspections, and maintain our current stormwater management ordinance as it is today, at least from a regulator's perspective. As we go through this, one of our big things is we do maintain extensive GIS regulations of all of these. This goes through, we do have 248 regulated SCMs that we do inspect, so it is effort over 5 years to get through them, and the township personally has 71 that we inspect as well. The good housekeeping, which is our MCM 6, is one that we, James and the Public Works Department handle. Number one is to maintain any SCMs that we do have, but as well, we maintain and implement written O&M programs and development training programs for spill responses for the staff and identification in cleanup. Some of these examples are fleet maintenance operations, fueling operations with our captures around our fuel islands, ensuring salt storage is covered, and good waste collection. The water program quality update, which is probably one of the new substances that would not have been found in some of these previous ones. The township did receive draft notice that they were going to issue us a 5-year permit term to get to 2031 from this year. This is the one I was describing that largely is a version of our previous permit that we were operating under, less the PRP plan. At the time that I was writing this, we did not have that permit in hand. It came through this afternoon at around 3 or 4 o'clock. So as of now, that is official and issued by DEP. So this term will run until 2031. This is not to be confused with the draft guidance that many of us have heard or talked about from Pennsylvania DEP that was released in 2025. The timeline for that permit is still unknown when it will be finalized. Through some other processes, I've talked with DEP, and it is running behind. I believe they said they are obligated to and received over 1,800 comments to respond to and draft written responses. At this time, they're advising people that may be at least a year out to date from this. Still, again, as an individual permit holder, that is why we are separated from that timeline. Normally, the individual and general description doesn't play a large role, but what it does do is separate our timeline from the general permit. There are municipalities with general NPDES permits. Our water quality and some of the peculiar had us classified as an individual permit from the inception of our MS4 program. This is a little bit of an overall of, if we're all familiar about the 10% sediment reduction, that future permit, what we're looking at is going towards what I call a volume management plan. Though they received 1,800 comments, they have described that it is very likely to still conceptually align with the draft that they released. The exact math and calculation of how those will be accounted for may change or may be clarified. Their goal of the new permit is slightly different than the previous PRP plans. They're looking at treating all or some percentage, 80 to 100% of untreated impervious over a 50-year term, with each incremental permit cycle biting off a portion of that treatment requirement. So quite a longer timeline from the original 10%. And for clarification on this, when they refer to untreated impervious, that would be impervious that was developed without an existing stormwater management plan. It's going to get we're going to have a lot of record keeping to do because this area has had a very active stormwater management. So a lot of our impervious is treated that we will have to go back farther. In the state's mind, 2003, 2006 is when this started, but we did have volume BMPs significantly previous to that in the township. And accounting for those will allow us to get credits to reduce our requirements and reduce towards that ultimate end goal when that permit comes into effect. So going through this and kind of moving forward with the program from a staff level perspective, we plan to use the 5-year term we have to start inventorying some of these SCMs and prepare, as well as observe how other general permittees, what methods are most effective, most cost effective, what strategies work best through that. We're kind of generally viewing this as if we have 5 years to learn. The draft timeline in that draft table basically gives you 2 years to plan and 3 years to implement. In our context, we're viewing it more as having 7 years to plan, which does allow for good planning. In the previous permit term, the planning that some of them was done for the PRP did save the area considerably on the engineering and calibration compared to other municipalities in other regions of the state. So it's a hope that as we find that, we can find ways to duplicate that success going forward. So I guess I'll turn it over to questions. I know there's a question later and a question forward, and I won't have all the calculational answers, but I do at least have some direction in which they're going.
I was going to say, start with any questions. I guess one that I would address, I understand when the public is reading this is a very acronym-intensive type topic matter, but I imagine our website it is got some resources on this matter that people can kind of research more if they want to, or even contact the township if they have questions that they want to clarify on MS4.
Absolutely. I'm always happy to clarify that. I'm aware there are many acronyms in this, and in fact, the state is even choosing to change their acronyms from Stormwater BMP to SCM. Going through all this from a PRP plan to a VMP plan for volume management, so it certainly can get confusing even for someone who's, what I say, in the weeds as myself.
Any other questions? Mr. Haller?
Yeah, Adam, thank you so much for the presentation. And I guess, first off, so MS4 is still a non-funded mandate.
Absolutely.
Okay, so that is the thing that I always take away, and that hasn't changed. I will say I do get frustrated with this, and this isn't you, this is just me in general with the entire program, where I see us burning a lot of calories. Engineering, we were able to do this, we do it better than this municipality, than that, but then I don't see the outcomes. What is the result of all of this with the MS4 program? So I'm wondering too, as we think about this in the future, if maybe we focus on the outcomes as well, not just all the details of look at everything that we're doing and the questions that we're answering, but what's the impact? I'd love to be able to say, this is why we're doing this. So, and I think that's a larger conversation. That isn't a you thing, that's not a Ferguson Township thing. It's what's missing though for me in this.
No, I certainly agree. And, you know, when they talk about the PRP plan and a 10% reduction in sediment, all of those projects are entered into a model maintained by the EPA that estimates it, and it is a little abstract,
Sure,
for saying, and the way they credit the projects as well can be a little abstract. I think maybe that's part of the state's motivation, though it creates more confusion in going to their volumetric coverage. Because there have been some documentation I've seen where they talk about impervious coverage limits and how those affect on stream health and different items. And I see those kind of reflected in potentially some of the limits for impervious coverage or untreated they're showing. Because really one of the ones I've basically seen is, and I think Ferguson is very fortunate in the age and time it was developed in its ordinances with this, because there certainly are other municipalities, depending on when they were developed, that treating 80, be it 80 or be it a different number of your untreated impervious, if you were built before 1950, is quite a scary topic. Whereas fortunately we were built largely as a township post the era. So I think that's partially what they're hoping to, but you hit the nail on the head. It is absolutely an unfunded mandate. All I can promise you is that going forward with this time, we'll try to do our best to get the greatest impact for the greatest dollars spent and effort spent that we can.
Yeah, that's all we can ask, and I think that's the biggest thing is, you know, even when we hear 10% sediment reduction, what does that actually mean? Why, what did that result in? And because we reduced it by 10%, we were able to, or the environment did this, responded this way. I'd love to start seeing those connections, and really, yeah, I'm sorry.
I was going to say, we reserved at the end of the agenda under new business an item to continue this discussion so that you have an opportunity, so that the board has an opportunity to ask those questions in depth with Adam here so that we can clear up any of those questions. And Adam surely has a wealth of knowledge on this topic. So I just wanted to let the board know that that's the intention of that item, and so we can get into some of those questions.
Thank you. I'm sorry, I wasn't sure if that was Tom speaking or the haircut's throwing me off.
Yeah. It's all gone. It's over.
He gave us no warning. He showed up on Monday with it.
Did he? Okay.
I got mine cut too.
Oh, man. Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm good.
Any questions on the presentation, or had some others I think I could maybe hold until the agenda item? Not quite sure where to put them, but I do appreciate the presentation.
Well, I'll be happy to discuss them further in that agenda item. And
Okay.
hopefully I did the annual presentation you all love justice.
You did well, but you didn't threaten a quiz. But
God.
I think we can breathe a sigh of relief if we didn't get a quiz again this year. So.
I didn't tell you it's coming with those clickers they use for the college students.
Oh no, there is a quiz. Okay. So that was just a presentation, no action on that one. So we will then go to the department reports, and I'll recognize the township manager.
In your packet this evening are the reports from the various departments, and this time each of the department directors are here in the event you have any questions regarding those reports.
Any questions on the reports?
Always.
Stand by for Mr. Patterson.
No, a couple of things. Review my notes here. So we lost our HR transition person.
Generalist, yes. That was was a 28-hour per week position. When our previous HR director left, he did increase his hours as much as he could while also pursuing his master's degree. And he has got his degree and moving on, which we had anticipated the entire time that he was working towards his degree.
Copy. Congratulations to them moving to across the country. So.
Yes, Tanner Steele did an outstanding job for us throughout his time here and really picked things up and helped a lot in the last 4 or 5 months until we got our current HR director.
Cool. Sure, we'll talk about some of his works, so the group's works,
Yes.
but we're still well positioned from a transition perspective.
We are. Our human resource director has been with us now 2 months. She's adjusting very well, and we have that 28-hour a week position posted for interest and to try to fill that assistant HR position.
Copy that. Moving on to planning and zoning department report. Couple of items that are under review. Are we getting near that 30, 60, 90, 120 day window on any of them?
I think we're pretty good on the timelines because we've been tracking them closely, but I'll defer to our planning director, Kim Smith.
Yeah, there's actually, I think there's one where they did a submittal and you're required to extend your time when you do a resubmittal, but that just happened and we're asking them for the timeline. So yeah, yes, we are keeping up with all of these.
Very good. And something else I noticed in here. I'll move on to Public Works. Nope, we're going to hit that a little bit later. And then on to police. And a couple of things. Number one, I saw there's a 100% increase in, it was in the type 2 crimes section. Why am I missing it now? It went from, I think, 100% year over year increase in, I think it was disorderly conduct.
Yeah, that looked to be what I saw too.
Yeah, disorderly conduct in April 25 to April 26. Just curious, was that just one big party at some location, one of our new spaces in town, or?
No, I mean, I noticed this uptick, and I talked about this a month or so ago. As it gets warmer, we're going to get more calls, and we did get a lot of loud parties this past year. I mean, that's calming down a little bit, but yeah, I noticed that as well.
Is it in a location that perhaps didn't exist years ago, and now that it exists, there's more parties there, and people are complaining?
I can't say about years ago because I'm pretty new here.
Well, how about last year?
These are locations that are primarily younger locations, and we know some of those areas, such as the yards, and we're getting a lot of these kinds of complaints. But they're loud party type complaints. There hasn't been anything that's been like a crazy party.
Okay.
It's been way out of control, but yeah, we're experiencing more calls about it.
So these are just calls, and then somebody takes a look, and they're like, it's okay, or,
We make contact,
Okay.
we ask them to turn it down, and in many of these cases, we've gotten, immediate response and compliance.
Very good. That's all I had. Thank you.
All right. Mr. Heller.
Concerning the department report, since we are talking police, I just wanted to give a shout out to Corporal Slater. The other evening, while sitting on my front porch enjoying a cigar, a car came through Pine Grove Mills over the double yellow, nearly sideswiped his parked car, immediately called it in to report, and within about a couple minutes after that, Corporal Slater did call to just follow up and took some more information. I appreciate him doing that.
Pretty sure that individual's been identified this time.
Okay.
Yeah, even better.
More to follow up on offline. So, okay, thank you.
Anyone else? No, I thank staff for putting those together. And that will get us into unfinished business, starting with the discussion on a solar feasibility study presentation and direction to staff for next steps. And I will recognize the township manager.
At the May 5th Board of Supervisors meeting, PA Solar Center provided a presentation on the study they conducted determining the feasibility of using township municipal building property for a build-out of a solar panel system. Based on the information obtained through this study, the board should consider directing staff to proceed with working with PA Solar Center and any other appropriate entities to develop a detailed plan, including a timeline and cost for the build-out of a solar panel network at the Ferguson Township municipal property. And it's recommended that the Board of Supervisors direct staff to proceed with working with the appropriate entities to develop a detailed plan for the build-out of a solar panel network at the Ferguson Township municipal property.
All right. I was going to say, should I defer to you, or do you want to think we might even have some public comment tonight?
I think
However you want to.
I'd love to start with a motion,
Okay.
if I may, if everybody's okay, and then we can go from there, shoot it down, thumbs up, get some feedback. So I move that to have staff proceed with working with appropriate entities, to include other government entities, to develop and execute a detailed plan for the build-out of a solar panel network at the Ferguson Township municipal property, with staff to provide updates at each board meeting until construction begins.
Do we have a second on that?
This is Patty, I'll second.
Got a motion by Mr. Patterson, second by Ms. Stevens, so then we'll get into discussion.
Allow me to clarify a couple of the things that I added to what was already in the motion. Number one was, I heard that Center County government was working on some solar stuff, and I said, oh, well, government, I think governments have worked together before to look at putting some solar in place. Let's keep it going. So two entities can get some economies of scale and some efficiencies in doing that, then why not? So it's a thing I heard, and so maybe there's an opportunity to give them a call and say, hey, what are you doing? Oh, you're doing that? Can we get $10 cheaper per panel if we work with the same contractor, like we do with the painting of the roads?
Yes.
We use the borough's contract, right? And then at the end, I added with staff providing updates. I think I personally have been a little frustrated with, cancel that. Lately, we've had 2 straight meetings to talk about it. And hey, we did a thing. Great job. Now we've done it. Now we've got more information. Do you guys want to report? I'd like to see a little bit more in terms of progress at each meeting. It doesn't have to be a long thing. It could be a paragraph. Could be a picture. I don't know. But just a little bit more updates for us. Those are the 2 things I added to what was already written.
Okay. Mr. Heller.
I had no issues with the motion until one of the words at the very end where it says when construction begins. I don't want to lead the horse. This is just the feasibility and the assessment, which I'm okay with. I don't want to say that construction will begin or that we are marking that as a milestone because we haven't even had a feasibility study yet.
We did.
Well, but if we look, working with the appropriate entities to develop a detailed plan, let me back up. The detailed plan to me is something that would have to come back to us for approval. I don't like the fact, I want a motion that says when construction begins. That tells me that we're kind of circumventing the detailed plan coming back in front of the board and then having a more in-depth, robust conversation. So I just don't want to go that far with that motion.
Interesting. I guess my reaction would be that we put some dollars into the budget to literally build solar. I think we both agreed.
Oh, yes.
We did not want to just put more money for another study. So there's money to build solar like tomorrow. It should have, matter of fact, that's why I was frustrated. Why didn't we put it up in March or April when the sun was really shining, started to get a little cold? I'd like to see some movement here. So I don't think that, I understand what you're saying. So maybe if it's like before we spend another X amount of dollars to do it, there should be hey, we've started, we got the first panel right here, and here's what we'd like to do. Here's, there's a young lady that came 2 weeks ago that said, hey, are you using these type of panels or this system, that system? Let's get some feedback. But I think that can all be in parallel. Because if we have another 1, 2, 3, 4 meetings, we've already missed 1, 2, 3, 4 opportunities for a panel to be on these roofs.
I
So
agree.
that's where my I'll pause.
And I think, though, the motion crosses the streams, because detailed plan is, to me, is not execution.
Mhm.
Detailed plan is a detailed plan, and then execution comes after agreement of the plan. And I'm hearing those two things come across each other, and that's where my mind kind of glitches immediately. So is there an amendment or something that maybe we could find some, because I'm, like, that one word is the one that, when construction begins.
Any thoughts? I don't know. I don't know. Again, if the 50K we put in the original budget or whatever the number was to get some panels was already there. So now we want to wait. Let's approve there's a little bit of maybe let's be a little iterative here. So in that next update, which it's in the motion to update regularly. Mm-hmm. So in the next update, there's hey, we did a thing. We've now seen that we can't really put panels on this side of the building because it's crap. We've got to do the roof over there, or we've got to do this roof over there on this building. Those type of things are going to come to us in those regular updates to be able to then say, hey, we need to take a knee here.
I think we're close on this.
Mm-hmm.
I really do.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just concerned $50,000 is not the $700,000 projected that we saw the other week. So I don't want to go ahead and commit even ideologically to anything more than that $50,000, which that motion kind of does. And that's why I wouldn't be in favor of it as it stands now. But I feel we're close, so I don't know.
If you don't have a response, I was going to defer to the manager.
I want to clarify where we are budget-wise. Last year during the CIP process, you approved $50,000 for the solar panel project. When it came time at the operating budget, you cut that from $50,000 to $25,000. So only thing in the current 2026 budget is in the operating budget worth $25,000. I just want to make sure we're clear on how much money you had originally thought it would be 50 during CIP approvals, but when you saw the overall budget deficit in the fall, you changed that.
And the remaining is $24,500 now, right?
Correct.
$500 is used. We have $24,500 for a single panel right above my head. This is great.
Staff
I want a plaque.
Staff would like to bring back a detailed plan that talks about, we heard a feasibility study, but the plan would also be part of feasibility. It'll show how this whole plan would work, what kind of cost benefit you expect from it, what would be the timeline, and what would be the cost. It would be shy of that saying you should do it. That would be come back to you to decide based on this whole plan of feasibility, additional feasibility, detailed plan, timeline, cost benefit analysis. Should we move forward beyond the 24.5 that is left? And that's what we would ask that we be asked to do.
And I'm okay with that, but the motion, the way it was presented, says construction. So maybe if it's an iterative, as the plan is developed or after the plan, something different that doesn't really call out that construction is going to begin.
Oh, I see what you're saying. So in what I wrote, or kind of in the motion, it says provide updates until construction starts.
Right, which leads to, construction will be starting, which we would anticipate.
It's not guaranteed to start. We're just going to keep getting updates at each meeting until construction starts. And there's some approval points, as Mr. Manager has said, there's approval points throughout, right? There's that design and.
Sure. I just get concerned with, again, leading to as construction.
Sure.
That's where
I recommend that you move to amend to remove the until construction starts.
I will move. Is that appropriate, proper?
Yes, it is.
Yes.
We're doing this right today. We're gonna do amend the
And
motion.
we are going to
amend.
vote on the amendment right after it's.
I move
seconded.
to amend the motion by striking the last part that involved until construction begins.
Do we have a second on that?
Second.
Okay, got a motion by Mr. Heller, second by Mr. Patterson. All those in favor of the amendment, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. The amended, any opposed? The amended motion. Got consensus on the amended motion, which is now on the table.
Staff has it, yeah.
And got a nod, nod for Jenna. For any further discussion on this? Yes. Mr.
Discussion on, yes, I will say, I would like, there was an email that was sent to all the supervisors from one of our constituents. I would like that entered into the record just for public consumption, because some of the things that I was going to be responding to this evening were related to that, and things that I would like to see in that detailed plan that I did send off to the manager and the chair earlier today. And I apologize for that being kind of right before the meeting here a couple hours ago, but I wanted to at least share some of my thoughts in that space. And I'm happy to go ahead and do that here, or even enter that into the public records, whatever's appropriate.
I was gonna say, I think the manager has it, but we can even forward it to the recording secretary for their records.
We do have it, and we'll make sure it's part of the record. If I may, only one other suggestion on the reporting, just thinking about staff and workload. We meet twice a month, and getting updates every meeting could become tedious. One of the things I would recommend is that when we do the department reports once a month, is that part of that department report for Public Works would be an update specifically on the solar panel project, because every 2 weeks comes up really fast to continue to give updates. It still won't get lost, obviously, but it would be tied to when we do our departmental reports anyways. I would respectfully ask for that consideration.
Yeah, and I'd be open to entertaining that, because Mr. Progar and all the staff work very hard, and
Respectfully, I don't, in what I said, my request, I said it could be a picture, it could be a paragraph, it could be a sentence. No update this whatever
Just
doing,
no update.
but I'd like to hear about it regularly. And I don't think that's unfair, because I don't think we ask for too much on a regular basis. I think this is one of those things I'm passionate about, and so I'd love to kind of see that.
Just offer as a mechanism that we already had built in place, but I understand. Thank you.
Thank you.
any other discussion?
So I'll just read, as we think about this, things that I would hope that we would consider in the detailed plan: full life cycle costs, financing assumptions, operations, maintenance of projects, what that would take, the inverter cost, more on the ROI. Also think about some things to compare to would be the solar generation on-site, the long-term renewable purchasing agreements that we might have to do. Again, kind of detail some of that in the email, just for consideration for public consumption when that gets out there.
Yeah. I was going to say, even speaking of any partnerships or other opportunities, when I saw this presentation last week, this seems somewhat familiar to the project that Center County Refuse and Recycling Authority had completed just not too long ago. Probably a nice local project to take a look at, even compare notes on, so something to keep in mind as we move forward. Mm-hmm. Anything else, or defer to Mr. Keogh in the room?
I think it's good for some public comment.
Okay, you're up, Mr. Keogh.
Thank you, Bill Keogh, resident Township. I walked away from our last meeting and the presentation that was done by the consultant, getting the sense that we were going to go it alone. That was the kind of overriding message that I was getting, that we were going to go it alone. And if that's part of where this is headed, I would like to suggest that we move very cautiously. We're just getting out of a major solar opportunity involving multiple townships, the county, the university, that failed. And there were some awfully smart people involved in that whole effort. Some awfully smart people. And I just think we need to move much more cautiously if we're going to go it alone. A couple of comments. If we're going to get support either from staff or, I'll deny I said this, a consultant, another consultant. I denied I said it. I really want to see a study that is not just a plan to do it. I would rather see the smart people of the world talking to us about our pros and our cons. And the fact that it may not be as smart as we think one way or the other. I'm not talking about solar as being a huggable issue. I'm talking about it being a real plan. And so if we get that kind of support from a consultant or staff, I really would like to see a pro side and a con side with regard to our township. I'd also, and I think this was mentioned, I'd like to see a cost recovery analysis. I know that our consultant gave us and moved through a bunch of numbers. When I think about the science of this effort, this science is moving very fast. Not quite as fast as AI, but the science is still moving very fast. Just the battery and storage component of solar is moving very fast because it's been found that it's not really as workable as a lot of people would like it to be in order to get a benefit in the end. I know this isn't going to be popular, but I really feel if we're going to go it alone, that we really need to have a township referendum to see what the tax-paying support is with the final product. I know a referendum is difficult, takes time to work out, requires that the public speak in the form of a vote. I think that there are, and I think we need to explore some alternative ways of investing our money in terms of recovering energy savings. If energy savings is our intent, or the primary, then I think we need to find whether there are some ways of getting that savings without necessarily investing in the infrastructure, i.e. buying it on the market, multiple buying, all kinds of things, and investing our money in that way as opposed to the building kind of infrastructure. With all of the studies that I have read, and I haven't read a lot, and I'm not an expert in this field, but with all of the studies that I have read, one of the things that the consultants tend to put a lot of weight on, and it makes the customer very happy, is the savings and what that represents over a 5-year period, a 10-year period, 25-year period. But when I read between the lines, none of those consultants are willing to guarantee 1 penny. And they don't write in their contracts. We guarantee you now, while we're talking you into this, that you're going to have this return. It's full of wiggle words. And in fact, that's part of what happened with the local environment. The words changed, and then the economics changed, and bang, we lost the opportunity to do what we did in terms of having a packaged solar proposition. I think, and I understand Mr. Patterson's frustration in terms of I want to see some real results, but I'm saying that I'm not sure that speed is the way to go with this. It's going to be very expensive, especially since we've got to change some of our infrastructure in order to accommodate the new infrastructure. And I think the community needs to be able to have a way of weighing in. Some people will say, well, have them come to our meetings. That's a standard kind of response that I hear lots of times. But I think a referendum might be an interesting way to go. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Anyone else in the room or online? Seeing none, go back to the board. Anyone else from the?
Mr.
I
Patterson. Just some reactions, and I think I appreciate some of the thinking here, and I agree that there's been some changes in the technology through the years, and I think it's been for the better. I think the consultant that we heard last meeting said, "Hey, we're using very conservative assumptions." I think UAJA had some very conservative assumptions, and they're far exceeding what they did from what they built years ago. At least that's what I ask when we have those meetings. If anyone thinks that the SPPA failed because of anybody in this county, then they haven't been paying attention. There's one reason that SPPA failed, and only one. And it was the changes in the federal administration and the bill that passed that changed all the rules around solar. All of them. The pricing markets, the credit markets, gone. I mean, essentially gone. There's a lot of things that just don't exist that make this feasible for certain organizations. Period. We have a lot of smart people in the county, and so that's why in my motion I put work with other municipalities, other governmental entities, because I think there are others moving forward with that. That's why I put it in the motion. So I think to your point, Mr. Heller, that kind of, the motion has the check-ins, some regular check-ins. Where are we? To your point, to be able to kind of see that next layer of what is the plan? What's the cost recovery? I don't know why we're worried about that. We don't ask for cost recovery on a road, do we? Do we ask for an ROI on Blue Course Road when we go to microsurface it every 4 years and when we go to mill and repave? Has anybody ever asked for a cost recovery for a road? Has anybody ever asked for cost recovery for snow plowing? Just curious. I've never heard that. So I'm not sure that asking for cost recovery on a thing that literally, there's not a single person that would argue, well, I don't know anybody that would argue about having a panel, because it has been shown that when the sun is shining, it produces energy, period. How much? Okay, we can have that, argument about how much and when, and okay, how many times we're going to have to squeegee this thing to make sure it has the same rate. But I'm not sure this cost recovery is something that we should kind of stop the train for. I think there's some other things that we can kind of maybe align on from a goal, from a benefit, from a length of time that we can talk through. But I think cost recovery, that's not the one. I'll pause there. Sir.
Go ahead. I'm deeply thinking.
And if I may, I agree. So there are other things to look at. The environmental impact, our strategic plan. There's a lot of value that comes in doing something like this, and you can point to that. So let's be prepared to point to that, and then say these are the reasons why this is important. I still think there will be cost recovery, and I'll say my standpoint hasn't changed. Even looking at the solar power purchase agreement, where we invested $8,000 to maybe get back $75,000 over 15 years. That wasn't a whole big cost recovery at all, but worth $8,000. Let's investigate it. Makes sense. So even if the cost recovery is small, there's still a whole bunch of other benefits I think that come with this. And as the conversation unfolds, I feel we will be having those discussions.
I'm good.
Okay. I understand there was some criticism in the past that we should have looked at solar on our own, but it was my understanding at the time that was not feasible. But now that we have revisited this question with the updated information, I think the picture is different. I'm glad that we have the opportunity in front of us now, but I think we should evaluate carefully. And that what matters now is that we evaluate our current proposal using today's facts and make the best decision for the township moving forward. When I'm thinking about this, if with solar we could possibly reduce our electric operating costs, I feel return on investment is important, something that we should look at, because I think we do have a fiduciary responsibility to stretch the financial resources that we do have. If we're spending more instead of less, that isn't a good fiduciary use of those tax dollars. On the matter of the voter referendum, I was just kind of reminded that back in 2012, 4,272 residents did vote for an environmental bill of rights that they said, hey, we want, Ferguson to be more environmentally sustainable. We want a better environmental quality of life in our community. So that is a very large portion of our electorate, and I imagine it's probably increased since then. So just some things to keep in mind. Oh, Mr. Brogart.
Sure.
I hope I didn't keep you waiting too long.
No, I just wanted to, for clarity for staff direction, I just want to point out a couple of things and then ask for some direction in which way you would prefer staff take this, so that we can keep, if we are to keep moving forward, that we know what direction you would like to take. There's a couple components here where Get PA Solar, that did the initial study and gave the presentation, the way they operate, they will take it all the way to issuing the RFP, getting bids, they will do the full the whole thing.
Okay.
We paid the initial $500 up front, and that's kind of how, of course, that's how they get you in the door. The feasibility study is a big thing to overcome for a lot of agencies. So they do that part. There are fees associated with the next pieces of it. We're not obligated to use them. We can certainly use a different agency. We can RFP ourselves and find something. We can do a lot of different things to move this project forward. Knowing that there are deadlines for tax credits by July of 2026 and then into 2027, if that's a goal that the board would like to meet, and we want to move this along, it would be good to know what direction the board would like to take it. Also, if the remaining funds that are available from the $25,000 to $24,500, if that would be then authorized or acceptable to use to move the project forward in terms of working with the consultant to move this along. One of the things we could do would be let me back up. There are considerations in the sense that the presentation that was put together that we saw last meeting, it's looking at solar specifically. Some of the things it's not considering is the life cycle or the current state of our roofs on our facilities and where in that 25-year span they would need to be replaced or repaired or when we would do that sort of maintenance. So it doesn't really make sense to install a whole bunch of $700,000 worth of solar if we're going to need to repair the roof 5 years later. That being said, knowing that all of those things are factors here, timeline, state of current facilities, if the board prefers staff to move forward, we can take it as far as you want and bring it back prior to any issuance of any or any development of any RFP and know what that would look like. Because there are financing models here, as I understand it, that would play into this, whether the solar is purchased outright by the township, if it is leased by the township, how we finance that, if it's coming straight. Obviously you have the purse strings here, so I would want to be able to include all those things, but in order to gain momentum, keep it moving along. If the July deadline is important to the board, or if it's not something that is important to the board, to know how to move this and in what direction, it would be helpful to know kind of those, the answer to those questions or to those points. So.
Go ahead if you had.
I think the motion gives you the flexibility to move in the way necessary. I do believe that there's a sense of urgency from like to see some status every meeting. So I think in that the urgency's there. I would say that also in there is the kind of proceed with the plan and to include other governmental entities. So once again, as I mentioned, who did you mention, Claire?
Center County Refuse and Recycling.
RA, if they already did an RFP and have a lot of that information that we're seeking, can we partner with them? Can we get in underneath that and say, all right, let's double the number of panels? And do you have any bulk pricing? If it doesn't work, okay, never mind. But it's a phone call at the very least. The county is looking at something. That's a phone call at the very least. And if it does work and it gets helps with the urgency, then I do believe that that's an appropriate path to take. And I think the motion gives you some tentacles to go, some branches and sequels to move forward with. And I think whatever path, they're all going to include some of the things that Mr. Heller's requested and what others have mentioned in terms of cost recovery and sending somebody on the roof to actually walk it and get some clear. I know in the last meeting, The young lady said that one of the roofs is in complete disrepair. So, okay, that might make sense to, well, we were going to do that in a year. Let's just go ahead and do it now. Do the roof, put the solar, boom, same company. You know, that's an option. It's all there for you, I think, to even think through a phasing plan.
Sure. So I guess going off of that, is there, what we saw in the presentation was, you know, a scenario where to offset 120% of the energy usage for the township, we need to have solar on this, and this building, and it's going to cost $700,000. That's what the projection was in that scenario. With the roof condition, with the timelines, with everything, and working and partnering with other agencies, is there a dollar amount, or is there an offset amount, a target goal that the board would like to see, or is it get whatever we can done? Is there a specific goal that we're trying to achieve with the solar implementation, or is it just implement whatever we can for within a certain amount or for the lowest cost amount? I guess I'm just looking for kind of my constraints in working through these questions.
Trying to think of
Because we don't have anything in the CIP or, you know, a guideline. We have a scenario that was presented, but we don't really have a cost associated that would give a framework to where the board would prefer the township to be.
Mr. Heller?
Is there enough flexibility in the motion as it stands now to say, for example, the a la carte menu? I like a la carte menus. We can get the Rolls Royce, and this is what it's going to cost if we do this, but here's the return on investment. It's going to be 18 cents in 35 years. Or guess what? We got the Ford, and it's going to go ahead and give us $30,000 investment, return in maybe 2 years. I know we said detailed plan in the motion. Is that enough flexibility for this discussion, or do we need to be more specific? And I look to the board and others, I'm just curious.
You kind of get a good, better, best option.
In what was presented at the last meeting, in my review with Get PA Solar, that was what they viewed as getting the highest offset for the lowest dollar amount and the highest return. So that was just the best case scenario that you could come up with. Again, you certainly could put solar on every single building, which they didn't recommend for a number of reasons. You could do other buildings. It wasn't that they didn't necessarily support solar. It was that configuration was what they were saying was for the dollar amount that you would spend, this is what would get you the best return and would be the best investment. So for instance, we're looking at the salt shed roof that needs to be replaced imminently. That's a project that roof would support solar. We are getting ready to look at what that repair would be like. That might be an area where we could move that very quickly and get something in the contract and get those credits. That might be something that's feasible. Is that going to offset enough solar for the board's liking, or is it going to, what is that cost really going to represent? Will there be enough of a return to make it worth doing it, or is the goal to just, because it's feasible, it's in front of us, so we can maybe push that one through quicker and get some of that achieved? I guess I'm just looking for my next steps in terms of having these discussions, kind of where you want it to be.
I will say my interpretation of the presentation was a little different, because I also saw in the presentation, and you could also get the big battery back. So there were these ifs, and don't forget, you could add on. So to me, it wasn't really the 80% that's going to get you there. This is the best plan. It was, here's a plan. Oh, and by the way, here's still some options you have to select along the way. So it wasn't, to me, the best recommendation. It still had options.
The option for the battery is we broke it into two phases for the study, for the purpose of having what it would look like to do a solar implementation of just panels, and then for the battery consideration. So we know that based on a scenario where you're looking for 3 days of reserve battery power combined with a generator that's going to support your peak loads and all these things. That would cost roughly $300,000 to $400,000, $500,000, somewhere in there for that battery. So that's a question in and of itself and that can be separate. It doesn't have to be part of the solar installation. It can be. I guess that is the question. Because we could include that, but we know for that baseline, what that cost is going to be. And we know that some configuration of solar panels on the roof is going to return some amount of electricity offset and some amount of return on investment for whatever that expenditure turns out to be, but we don't know those today. So something that would be along the lines of a dollar amount or an offset amount would give staff a direction in terms of what we're trying to achieve. Because again, if the goal is to just get solar up and have a roof replacement, I mean, the salt shed roof would be a project that would reasonably, I believe, be ready to go if the goal is to let's just get some solar on it and get it powered up. But that may not achieve what you're trying to achieve here for the investment, for the dollar amount.
Please.
Nothing. No, I was just going to say I sort of like that idea because it gets us started. And my concern is knowing that the infrastructure of our electrical grid is declining and actually critical, quite honestly. So anything we can do to sort of get up and running on this, I'm supportive of it. And that sounds like a great start, in my opinion. As for the battery backup, we have the generator. I'm not so sure, how quickly we need to go into that. But yeah, I don't know. I sort of like the idea of starting with the salt shed and then the roof rebuild and then go through the process with the other things.
So it sounds like that's what we would expect to see in that detailed plan as it came back, would be that option going as a start. Okay, and the 24, I'm so sorry. Please.
As was in the original motion, and it was added to, we really thought about doing a build out, so not having to be billed all at once. It could be in phases, so we've specifically called it a build out, knowing that some can get done sooner than the other. I think the motion that is on the table gives staff the flexibility, as long as we're reading it, the motion correctly, that with the ongoing updates that you're going to be getting, we could be bringing you, for example, okay, here's what assessment we've had done on the salt shed roof. This is what it would cost. This is what we could expect. And you could be making decisions in a phase environment. And we can get moving now on talking to other municipalities, finding out what their success stories have been, what have their drawbacks been, what does their RFP look like. I would want to know that if staff determined that they need to spend some money in doing this assessment, that $24,500 could be, it's available now in 26, could be used as necessary to do further development of a plan. And the plan, like I said, could be brought to you with these ongoing updates in a phase strategy.
I'm good with that. I will say though, phase strategies are great unless all of a sudden there's financing that gets us everything for a lower cost and a faster return on investment. Like, so I don't know what's out there. But again, I just don't want to box us into a phased approach if all of a sudden we look at financing options or bonds, whatever might be out there, and say, oh, here's a better way that we might be able to do this. But I'm good with that.
Okay, that works.
Any other consensus? Move to call the question.
All right. I'll just call a question. Because I don't think anyone wanted the debate. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed say no. Motion passes. Tonight on the consent agenda, we have a letter of support from Ferguson Township for a grant application from the Chesapeake Conservancy to the Pennsylvania Department of Community and Economic Development, DCED, under the Watershed Restoration and Protection Program. We also have an authorization to submit a recycling grant to PADEP for a leaf collector truck and a street tree planting pay app. Anyone wanted to pull any of those items? All right. If not, all those in favor of approving the consent agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, say no. All right. Those pass. Bought some trees there, Larry. Next up, we'll have a resolution of Township of Ferguson, Center County, Pennsylvania, certifying the provision of a local match to the Center Area Transportation Authority, CATA, for fiscal year 2026-2027, and I'll recognize the manager.
Provided with the agenda is a resolution certifying Ferguson Township's annual contribution to the Center Area Transit Authority for the CATA fiscal year beginning July 1, 2026 and ending June 30th, 2027. This contribution is required under the Pennsylvania Public Transportation Law, codified at 74 PACS 1513, which mandates that founding and member municipalities of transportation authorities provide a local match to receive state operating assistance. For the upcoming fiscal year, the township is resolved to contribute $149,661 in operating funds, consistent with the funding schedule outlined in the attached resolution. This represents a decrease from the $152,586 contributed in the 2025-2026 fiscal year. Additionally, the township will contribute $16,691 in capital funding, up from $16,316 the previous year. Both operating and capital contributions will be paid in equal quarterly installments on July 31st, October 31st, January 31st of the fiscal year, with the final payment due April 30th, 2027. This resolution demonstrates Ferguson Township's ongoing commitment to supporting regional transit infrastructure and operations that benefit township residents in the greater center region. It's recommended that the Board of Supervisors adopt Resolution 2026-12, certifying the local match for CATA for fiscal year 2026-2027.
Mr. Heller.
I'm ready to make a motion.
Okay.
Move that the Board of Supervisors adopt Resolution 2026-12, certifying the local match for CATA for fiscal year 2026 to 27.
This is Patty, I'll second.
Okay. Got a motion by Mr. Heller, second by Ms. Stevens. Any discussion?
No, just that it's CATA it's an asset. And happy to support it.
I was going to say this wasn't a public hearing, but I am going to defer to any public comment. Also did see that we do have our representative from CATA in here, so just open the floor for any remarks that any of them may have.
Nothing here. I'm just here to observe. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Rob. If nothing further, I will recognize the manager to call the roll.
Chair Thompson.
Yes.
Vice Chair Patterson.
Yes.
Ms. Stevens.
Yes.
Mr. Heller.
Yes.
Passes unanimously 4-0.
All right. Next, we'll have a resolution of Township of Ferguson, Center County, Pennsylvania, authorizing the disposition of specific public records in accordance with the procedure set forth in the retention and disposition schedule for records of Pennsylvania municipalities issued July 16th, 1993, and as amended December 16th, 2008. And I'll recognize the manager.
Provided with the agenda packet is a resolution providing for the disposition of certain records retained by the township and scheduled for disposition in accordance with the retention and disposition schedule for records of Pennsylvania municipalities. Annually, township staff completes a listing of records that are required to be disposed of in accordance with the Municipal Records Manual. Attached to the resolution as Exhibit A is the list of storage boxes and their contents in which to be disposed. It's recommended that the Board of Supervisors adopt the resolution authorizing the disposition of specific public records in accordance with the retention and disposition schedule for the records of Pennsylvania municipalities.
And do we have a motion on that?
This is Matt. I move that the Board of Supervisors adopt a resolution authorizing the disposition of specific public records in accordance with the retention and disposition schedule for records of Pennsylvania municipalities.
And do we have a second?
This is Patty, I'll second.
Got a motion by Mr. Heller, second by Ms. Stevens. Any discussion?
Yeah, just this always gets me. I think this is the second year in a row, which is good. We're now every year we've got it. So we're officially cleaned up in terms of orderly every year, just doing the right things. But it always gets me. Is there some sort of cold case in any of this that we're going to miss out on, or is all this is solved? Laid to bed. This is not going to come up later. Somebody's got to did something wrong and we destroyed all the records.
Yeah, the law specifies certain cases in which you can't get rid of. So, there are some cases that are at least 75 years before you can destroy them. So anything in the police being destroyed, statute of limitations would have been long gone. There's a minimum of 20 years of record in the police department. So what this is getting rid of year 2005.
2005, yeah.
But unsolved missing persons, suspicious deaths, homicides, unsolved homicides, those are kept forever.
Okay. You were waiting for that question. Softball.
No, I didn't anticipate that one.
No, thank you.
I'm really impressed with that because when I think when looking at it on the surface, it's like, yep, everyone throw it away. It's like, no, not so fast.
Yeah.
So
Those kind of records don't go away.
okay. Any other from the board? Anyone in public comment? If there is nothing further, I recognize the manager to call the roll.
Chair Thompson.
Yes.
Vice Chair Patterson.
Aye.
Ms. Stevens.
Yes?
Mr. Heller.
Yes.
Passed unanimously 4-0.
All right. Next, we'll have a discussion on the revised authorities, boards, and commissions, ABC's recognition program, and I will recognize the manager.
Ferguson Township has had an authorities, boards, and commissions program for many decades now. However, the township does not have a formal ABC volunteer recognition program. Several years ago, then board chair Lisa Strickland and ABC volunteer Bill Keogh began to discuss the concept of enhancing aspects of the Ferguson Township's ABC program. Two areas of focus at that time were ABC training orientation and the need for an ABC volunteer recognition program. In the recent past, a couple of long-tenured ABC members completed their ABC service, thus renewing the idea of the need for a formalized ABC volunteer recognition system. Last fall, Mr. Keogh, Ms. Strickland, and Township administrative staff began meeting to discuss and develop the framework for a recognition program. Over the past couple months, Human Resource Director Kelly Varner and Assistant to the Manager Jenna Antle began drafting an ABC volunteer management manual. A section of this manual is the proposed recognition program. This draft of the recognition program was shared with Ms. Strickland and Mr. Keogh. This draft incorporated much of the framework that was created previously. On May 13th, 2026, staff met with them to receive their feedback on this draft. Enclosed with the agenda is the proposed ABC volunteer recognition program, which is the collaborative work of those mentioned above. This item is for discussion only. Staff will incorporate any input received from the Board of Supervisors and then have the ABC Volunteer Management Manual, including the recognition program, placed on a future meeting agenda for approval. It's recommended the Board discuss the proposed ABC Volunteer Recognition Program and provide feedback to staff.
Do we have a motion on this? Or are there any questions for the manager? You're good to proceed when you're ready there, Mr. Heller.
Okay, I'm sorry. I was actually in the body of the agenda reading up on something related. So, yes, I believe in the recognition program. I do have a question for Mr. Keogh, if that would be acceptable. To call, put him on the witness stand.
Would William Keogh please come to the stand? I I was going to say yes.
May I open a line of inquiry?
Please go ahead.
So if I understand correctly, Mr. Keogh, you and Ms. Strickland worked on this verbiage, and you both agree and approve and are supportive of the verbiage that we see here in the proposal.
Absolutely. The staff, Jenna, who sat in on our meetings with the previous, some of our meetings with the previous manager. I can tell you that the discussions about ABCs started almost 3 years ago with our previous manager, Mrs. Strickland, and myself meeting on the big picture. But it became very clear about 4, 5, 6 months ago, when the current manager at that time indicated that when one of our ABC members retired, we had nothing, no program, no policy in writing. That doesn't mean to say that we haven't done something in the past, but we had nothing in writing. And so that immediately started the process of getting together and coming up with a plan, which clearly was a joint plan. And what you have in front of you is the work of several people, including Ms. Strickland and myself. I need to tell you also, when our current township manager came on board, one of the opportunities I had was to meet with him one-on-one several months ago. And that was one of the items that we talked about. And I have to give kudos to Mr. King, because he made it part of his mission before he left, that he would see that we had a recognition program in writing, and that really helped, and he saw the need for that, and so it really has been a staff proposition.
If I'm saying, we have to do better recognizing the volunteers in our community.
Yeah.
I am happy to approve this as is when it comes in front of us at a future date, and I just want to sincerely thank you, Mr. Keogh, you, Ms. Strickland, if you're watching at some point in the future, and Township Manager King, thank you very much, and staff for being involved, Jenna, with all of this along the way, because this is, again, something we have to do better. And then I'm committed to saying, as I did with Mr. DeMeo here a couple weeks ago, thank you. We have to say thank you.
It could have gotten lost, because think about it. We lost a manager, we lost an HR director, both of whom were in on the original stuff. And fortunately, Mr. King and Jenna were willing to carry the ball and keep this alive.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good job.
That was my only line of inquiry.
Okay. Would staff like to cross-examine the witness?
No, not at all.
Okay.
Tom knows better.
I support a recognition plan, full stop.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that anybody gets into this, volunteers to help for any of this stuff. So I would just ask to be a little bit nimble with the stuff. Somebody says, thanks, no thanks. I'm really doing this because I like trees. I love Larry. I love learning from him. I love bringing information to him from my gardening club, and vice versa. I don't need a thing. I don't need a pen. I don't need a tumbler. I don't need a blanket. I don't care. I just want to contribute. I just want to be part of my community. So I just want to I'd like us to just be nimble in that way to make sure that we are acknowledging people in the way that they deem acknowledgement. It could be just, the dinner last year was fantastic. Fantastic. And I think that in some cases, some people are like appreciative with just that. And just, again, be wary of the stuff.
Yeah.
I don't need another coffee cup in my house. If I see another one, I'm You might not see me in the
Yeah.
future. A little bit combusted. Sorry.
Mr. Heller.
First off, I heard Omari say that he would like a picture of the board put on a mug and then present it to him at a future date and with all staff. Thank you for that one, Mr. Patterson. So it really is just incorporating to me an opt-out ability,
Yeah.
to be flexible. So, great.
Yeah.
Good when it comes.
And I think that's a good point because I am familiar with an organization that has a recognition program, and while it has been well received, there has been some questions about certain tokens that people get into questions about environmental sustainability and just having another thing around the house. I've even heard of some stories of people even going to professional conferences and sometimes being handed a whole bunch of free stuff just to throw it away because, again, they got 50 different tumblers already in their collection. So I think, having an opt-out would be helpful from, not only just, keeping in mind the personal preference of the person. They may not want anything, for their service, or they may just be happy for dinner, but it also does help from a cost and sustainability perspective as well. But it is nice that we have a program here to recognize our ABC volunteers. Couple comments from what I've seen. I did do some looking into this because it was Mr. Keogh as well as Ms. Strickland that had came forward to me about this. And when I was thinking through this, it may be helpful to maybe have the tiers somewhat aligned up with the 4-year terms. I'm not sure if we're just kind of looking for longevity, but also just kind of thinking about what if somebody maybe only completes 24 years, which I think is six terms. They're hey, 6 terms, I'm done. So I was kind of thinking in terms of just kind of aligning the tiers with that in mind.
We talked about that among staff and also with Mr. Keogh and Ms. Strickland. We have a lot of 4-year terms. We also have 5-year terms. We also have 3-year terms. And at the regional level, we have 1-year terms.
Okay.
And so not all terms are created equal in terms of their length of them. So we thought the best way to be, equitable across the board is, it might be in the middle of 1-year terms that you hit a particular level, but there's nothing wrong with that. It's you've been volunteering for 10 years with Ferguson Township. It might have been 3-year terms and 1-year term, but we're going to recognize you. Assuming you want. Now, with the board, would you suggest we put some opt-out provision within the recognition manual, or is that something you want to know that we'll do informally, or actually write it into the manual?
I think it'd be helpful to write it in.
Yeah.
So because it's in writing, then
People can
as
see that.
folks are, recognized, the person can say, I'm okay, I love doing this, or I really like my rocker pen. I want to attach it. That's a school. I want to have it every meeting I go to. But just that option of Ally would be, I think it's going to.
That'll be added before it goes back to you.
One last thing, was there any consideration when drafting this of combined service? Because I know we've had a few ABC volunteers that have also had combined service on the Board of Supervisors off and on in their tenure. I was also thinking, well, it's not been as common, but what if there was even somebody on staff that after their tenure on staff, they joined an ABC or even ran for office? So just recognizing sometimes that combined service, because whether it's staff or an elected official, they're still serving the township.
Right.
So.
And if you're serving on 2 different ABCs, you're serving that much more for the township, and you're putting in that much more time.
Yeah.
So I don't know that we specifically discussed that, so that's something good for us to go back and discuss about how we would incorporate that into the process.
And again, I think that's good in writing, just, in case something gets lost in translation, or, the question does come up later down the road. Oh, hey.
Yeah.
Yep, good question, that's in the manual. And the witness has returned with a burning question.
Yes, we did talk about some of that kind of stuff. And my personal feeling, without having the group sitting at the table while we were discussing it, my personal feeling is the word nimble came up, and I do believe there are going to be circumstances that are presented to us via board and or ABC people that are going to require a little nimbleness and a little variation with justification. If we try and think of all of those things, we start to defeat the task in front of us in terms of recognition. I think we have to trust our staff and our board in terms of recognizing those particular unique individual things rather than trying to write them all down in a policy. That's my personal feeling.
Thank you for sharing. I was just bringing that up because I understand there are certain styles where people perform based on what's in writing, and then yes, there are those that are nimble, and so I'll leave it at that. Any other remarks from the board? Are we ready for a motion?
We have our direction, so I think we know how to proceed.
Anyone want to make the motion?
I don't think we need. Yeah, we're just just discuss and give us feedback.
Oh, sorry. I
think
we
we're good.
could, but
just recommend discuss and provide feedback. Okay, more to come. Next up will be a discussion on the revised leave policies for non-union personnel, and I will recognize the manager.
Recruitment and retention of qualified staff is critical to the success of carrying out township business for our residents, business owners, and others living, working, and visiting in Ferguson Township. Successful strategies for recruiting and retaining personnel are offering not only competitive salaries, but also benefits comparable to other similar organizations. Ferguson Township has had challenges over the past few years with both recruitment and the retention of personnel. Some of these challenges are not unique to Ferguson Township. However, it is important to periodically review pay and benefits offered to ensure they are competitive with the local market. HR Director Varner obtained comparison information from the following municipalities: College Township, Patton Township, State College Borough, and the Center Region Council of Governments. Categories in which she obtained information include length of their probationary period, personal leave, holidays, sick leave, vacation leave, and bereavement leave. Enclosed with the agenda is a memorandum providing additional information regarding proposed leave time modifications. There's also a spreadsheet providing comparative data for other Center Region municipalities and the Center Region COG. It's recommended the Board of Supervisors discuss proposed personnel policy changes and direct staff to make necessary policy changes to be approved at a future meeting. I would say that at your table tonight is an additional spreadsheet. You'll see a column that's in green. That column was incorrect in what was posted in the agenda on Friday. The green is the corrected version of the maximum balance. The previous version had 160 hours for all those categories. That wasn't accurate. You have an accurate balance in front of you.
Any questions for the manager on this? Otherwise, I'd take a motion to start discussion.
I have one question. There were some changes made to across the board to match others, and there were some other things that were not changed to match others that were kind of where we were actually better and higher in the numbers. What was the strategy there? Just kind of leave it alone.
As an overall package, the one area that we were higher in was in personal time. So we have 7 days of personal time. There's others that have 3 and 4, and Patton has 5 days. But there are other areas that we're not as high as, as an example, State College Borough. Under vacation, we are not proposing to go as high as they are, and we're not proposing that you could be paid out for, their maximum is being paid out for 432 hours of vacation upon separation. So it was a matter of looking at all these and figuring out, is it a balanced package where we feel like with any of these municipalities, we are competitive?
Mr. Heller?
I'm sorry, did you want a motion before we get into discussion, or?
Yes, please, if you could.
Of course, I was back in the body of everything.
It's got it right here. If you
Oh, yeah, if you do, thank you. Appreciate that. Motion, okay, I recommend that the Board of Supervisors discuss the personnel policy changes and direct staff to make the necessary policy changes at a future meeting. Sorry, that wasn't
It's just kind of, I think we can get by without the motion. We're looking for, the motion would come at the future meeting where the actual changes to the personnel regulations would be in front of you. This is to get a gauge for, are you okay with what staff is proposing?
I was going to say, yeah, go ahead.
Okay, I have comments.
We don't need a motion. I'm just having a case of the Mondays over here.
Motions, it's good. So my recommendations, if I may, I like the 96 hours compared to the other municipalities. I think bumping it above the 80 really shows folks, hey, we care about our staff and the time off. I also hope that we ensure that when they are off, and really double down and say, no, you do not call in. You do not, this is your time. You have earned this. This is your time. That's a whole other conversation. So I'm good with this as it stands. I would request, though, that the bereavement be up to 5 days for a spouse, domestic partner, etc. And why I say that is I would not want anybody being told, oh yeah, but that Friday you were out, I know you wanted to take the whole week because your mother passed away on Monday, but that Friday's going to have to be a vacation day. You're going to have to burn that. No. They should have 5 days. Not 4, so that in the case of a week, it would enable somebody to take an entire week off for that tragic death.
And that was, for example, COG does that, and there's other organizations I'm aware of, other municipalities around the state who have gone to that, just saying, okay, between your 2 days off with weekends, 5 days, someone dies, you'll be back a week later.
Exactly.
But this was back to Vice Chair Patterson's comment about a balance. So we weren't as high as COG on that, but we're higher on personal time. But I certainly think that there's some real good merit, especially for the reason why you're giving the leave. At some point, immediate family member has passed.
And that, to me, is when we don't count nickels and dimes.
Right.
But we make that time and we give that space. That would be my only comment on all of this.
Bereavement's annual, right? 5 days annually.
No, you hope somebody doesn't face it very often, but if someone lost an immediate family member 2 or 3 times in a year, they would get it each time. And there's not you hope that no one would ever face that.
Mr. Allen?
And I know a large local institution that enables that sort of thing. And I will say this, having lost my mother last year and having the 5 days, I got into that scenario where it was like, well, there's the week. That's fine. And nobody had to question or bring, if I needed additional time, sure, I'd have to burn vacation time. Yeah. But that covered me and I never even had to explain things away. When it's somebody that close to you, I think they need the space to do that.
Yeah. So I'm seeing Mr. Heller's point on that.
That would go a long way.
Yeah. But of course, understandably, in any circumstance, even, of course, we're talking about paid time here, but any circumstance, I'm sure, there's always understanding and grace, whether that's through, existing time off or in some circumstances, like if it was a close friend, that would obviously be you gotta use some personal time, but,
Right. Yeah, you're still gonna grant the time off. They just
Right,
might need
yeah.
to take their own vacation or
Yeah.
personal time.
Did you want to bring up what Mr. White had said? Bereavement?
If you can jog my memory on that, I don't think I
He
had got
wanted
that.
to include in the bereavement, I think the wording is child, but maybe for somebody who had lost it, like a miscarriage, a pregnancy sort of thing, that maybe that gets included as well for grief.
Yeah, at least make sure there's a that's
A
true.
mechanism for that.
Some, don't know if that would fall under a maternal leave, but, at least something in writing in consideration that, it is storming outside.
Glad I closed my windows.
I don't know if I did. All right. Actually, I do have a question
Go
just
ahead.
on the sick, going from a 120-day cap to a no cap. Can you walk me through that? Is that different from vacation maximum balance?
Yes, so right now we cap it at 120 days. No one else has any cap. We do not pay our employees upon separation for unused sick time. So there's no liability to the township. What it does, I think other places have said, we don't want to set a cap and then tell people you can't go any higher than this. It doesn't really encourage people not to use sick time. And so without a cap, we're not paying for them. There's no liability. And we feel like if someone needed to use a lot of time, who really saved all their sick time, but now they have a reason to have to use it, they've earned that, they've worked hard over all the years, that we shouldn't limit them when they've been very dedicated, committed employees who very rarely had to use any sick time. So, and we also felt that no one else in the region caps it. We should at least be equal to them.
Yeah, I think my thinking here is, I think everybody's dedicated and loyal and hardworking and fantastic until there's some instance of someone not being that and abusing perhaps some of the goodwill and I don't know. I see if you've worked at the borough for 30 years, you can carry over 432 hours of paid time off. That's
Vacation.
2.5 months vacation that you can carry over. Okay, great. That's fantastic. But somebody's been there 31 years, then decides to go on vacation for 2.5 months, that is decided to retire, then they've it's just an example, but then they've put the township the borough in this case, at a disadvantage because they've now taken 2.5 months and they're gone and the transition wasn't able to be fully formed. So I'm not, I'd love to just understand where we can, I'm in favor of trying to, be within the median of the numbers. I guess I just want to be cautious of, but what about? What about that instance of, someone has, max balance of 336 hours, and so now 10 weeks they say I'm done, give me my 160 hours of pay, and I'm going to take a month off. And then we're without, right? So there's nothing, I'm not saying, I guess ultimately in the change that we're requesting, just what are those nuances that we need to make sure we're through? But I'm in favor of, making sure that our non-union folks have a essentially, this is similar to some of the union stuff. So I think,
Right.
having some folks having some parity between the two.
Parity between our two bargaining units.
That's right.
You know, that it's not unusual in the bargaining unit workforces that they have a couple months vacation and they will give notice that I'm going to retire August 31st, but my last day in the office is June 30th.
Mm-hmm.
And
Those are the
we have
loyal ones.
Right.
They do that.
And they'll give you notice, and of course, any leave time is subject to approval of your supervisor. So it doesn't mean you could take vacation on your own without having the appropriate authorization. So, and we also did limit the payout for vacation still as what it was before.
Mm-hmm.
You can accumulate more, but when you leave, you know that you're only paid for 160 hours of unused vacation time, and that's what it's been. So we've enhanced other things, we've kept others the same, but we think this way, and it also, I think Supervisor Heller mentioned it, is like early on, we're giving people in their first year right now a half a day vacation a month, and that's 6 days, and we've heard about that people want to come and they're going to come, but it's like, there's one argument that you want them to be there because they're training, but it's also a stressful time for people and they have to have their own life. And so them now, through this, having a day a month of vacation subject to approval of your supervisor is really the right thing to be doing for your new employees, and giving them increases based on the time limits that we have there, the different brackets. I really think it puts us competitive with the rest of the region. It doesn't make us the Cadillac. But it's certainly, when you put it all together, all those brackets of different leaves, it really puts us very competitive to every other municipality.
Yeah. Yes, Mr. Eller.
And if I may, it gets you closer to the largest employer of Center County, too, who's not in this list.
That's correct.
So if I have somebody who might be a great candidate sitting from OPP that's like, boy, I'm sorry, that probably gave away the institution. Oops. I didn't mean it.
Thunderclap right on cue for those watching online. Wow.
I'm going to be very careful with what I say next. But I believe truly that this, for the area, this is better. And I'm sorry if I missed this. Is there a difference between exempt and non-exempt?
No.
Okay, so we do not make that distinction because a large-scale institution in this area, does make that differentiation where it's non-exempt X, exempt Y. Okay, I'm good with this again because it does get us closer to that, and just hard numbers so that these are actuals. At a large-scale institution that I happen to work for, I have 786.5 hours of sick times just sitting there.
Better take off.
Yeah, but again, this is important, and I'm good with this. My only concern was back to that 5 days for the bereavement. So.
Yeah,
we'll make that change.
I was going to say, I'm going to broaden this out a little bit, but from looking at what's being proposed, I'm quite impressed because I think it does actually probably line up with a couple of the county's top 10 employers, and so and even that got a thunderclap. So,
and I think we mentioned it earlier. Is this doesn't apply to the Public Works Union or the Police Union, and it does get us competitive with those as well. So.
Right, it's good.
Though I think Public Works Union might fall.
By the way, Matt, I think you just gave every exempt employee in this room an idea.
Sorry, I did have one more thing. I know a large-scale employer that's not in this county. They don't have sick time. It's just personal. It's just personal time off.
Yeah.
Whether you're sick or you're going on vacation, it's your time. Use it.
Some places are going to paid time off where you lump sick, vacation, and personal all together and say we have a maximum. Right now, no one in the region is doing it that way. It doesn't mean that it's the wrong way, but I think being consistent with the local governments here in the region, everyone's still using those distinct.
Yeah.
Why? Is it helpful?
It's a philosophical question about, for example, what's sick time for? So if you're going to lump all these together, you're saying you can treat your sick just like a vacation day.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas some employers want you to use sick if you're sick. But if you're going to take all these hours and lump them together as paid time off, then there's no distinguishing why you're off. And so, do we care about that? Do we care if we're do we want people to use sick time for personal reasons like going to a ball game or going to a soccer match, or do you want that to them to have that available in case they are ill?
Yes. And I remember having this discussion with someone. There's some number of days, after some number of days, you have to have a doctor's note, right? Like, hey, I'm out sick again.
3 days, yep.
3 days. Now you need a doctor's note. So you can't go to the ball game for more than 3 days without, if you're truly sick, I think how you classify it in the system, and we're probably talking about this way longer than anticipated. I would just maybe see if our director, HR director, has some ideas here on simplifying this, because I think just because everybody does it doesn't make it right or doesn't even make it helpful. Is a helpful thing for everybody to just have a bucket that whether they're sick or going to the ball game, they can just do it. And there's no I need to track this or put it this line, that line. It's just you're using your time. You've got this amount of time every single year. I don't know the HR ins and outs as to why, but the large organization I know that does this, there's no tracking of are you sick or are you off. You called someone and say, hey, I'm not going to be in today. I'm sick. Or you've scheduled 2 weeks out, a month out. Hey, I'm out of office because I'm going to the ball game for the week. I think it's in general.
I will bring it up with our HR director. I was under the impression that for paid time off, it's a big bucket of all these categories. And when you took off, you took off. You didn't say why you were off. Mm-hmm. You're just taking off. I'm not going to come to work today.
Generally timing. Yeah. You don't just get sick 2 months out.
Right.
So 2 months out, you schedule your time off to go to an event thing.
I will raise it. She has experience in private sector as well as some other workforces. I'll see what her experience is. Okay. Wouldn't want to hold up these changes for now, but it might be something to look at longer term if she doesn't have any immediate solution.
Yeah.
Okay. I was going to say, should I call a recess? It does look like we're going to get rain, so.
You don't have to.
Okay.
Keep going then. You
All right.
All right.
Next up will be continued discussion on the PA DEP Municipal Separate Storm Sewer Service MS4 permit. And you notice I don't say that very quickly.
Yeah.
Otherwise, that'd be interesting. We'll recognize the manager and then.
We talked about this earlier. Adam is still with us. James is here. This was an opportunity as the township has been notified about changes that will be upcoming. We now know that those changes won't impact us until 2031. But because of the changes that are being suggested, whether or not you wanted to have any discussions about the impact of those changes or anything else you wanted to discuss about the MS4 program. Since you had the presentation tonight, we wanted you an opportunity to ask any questions.
All right, so this would just be questions and discussion, no action needed.
Correct.
There is a motion, though.
No, there's not. Go ahead, Mr. Heller.
My only comments were made earlier. Again, I just like to see the connection between just so we can see the impact for everything that we do. Because as we look at the CIP and programs that we approve over the upcoming years, making that connection is going to be important for me. And I don't know how we quantify that. Those are my only comments. And really, it's just on a reporting stand.
And I think this one, and helping to tie some of that together when thinking about involving you, because what DEP is proposing for the new one is essentially a lot simpler math. They're looking at, and again, these are totally subject to change, but they're looking at an inch total, a half inch over a point of impervious area. And that means that, say, projects such as the regenerative stormwater conveyance that Spring Creek is considering likely will yield some credit for us in Tudeck Park as a project. Previously, the regenerative stormwater conveyance in Park Hills that was not part of our MS4 likely will yield some credit as the infiltration rate And one of the added benefits to this area that's often understated when I mentioned why there was more infiltration here or focus on that earlier than other parts of the state is as part of our stormwater ordinance, there's a focus on the wellhead protection areas and the recharge areas. But when they talk about Dr. Berzak and all of those, the recharge is very important in this upper portion of the watershed because for us, at least on that program, for lack of a better term, if it runs off faster into the stream channels, the wells are depleting water that then gets shortcut down to the sewer plants, and essentially we're starving ourselves for our own recharge over the upper watershed. So that is one benefit for us. When you talk with partner agencies, the SRPC, and ones here, their focus is more local than the streams, where they look at Spring Creek and maintain spring flow to those, which also ensures that water still is infiltrated. Now, as far as the statewide program, I think they're looking for similar goals, but maybe more abstractly at a distance, just hoping if they can chip away at this. And the other big goal that they have that probably will help it kind of come to light is they're looking to unify it with what you would call the PCSM program that was listed in the MTMs, but is the Chapter 102 permits that we know as the MPDS permits that are administered by the county. So this way, the volume credits for that will correspond to that. And as an interesting side effect then, at least as it's proposed today, redevelopment and the BMDs or SCMs that are private redevelopment will actually help remove impervious from ours. As they go, say you have an old site that was on North African Street developed in the 50s or that period that did predate some of that, and it comes in and has to be brought in modern standards, it will actually help our case as it is. That it's not completely on the township's end. So it'll be kind of a dual benefit between satisfying the state requirement for the owner and us.
I am glad smarter people than me are looking at this. So, no, thank you. And that's the important stuff, is making those connections and finding the value and where we can get credits from, well, opportunities like that. So, no, I'm good with this, and those, again, were my only comments.
Okay. Anyone else? One thing I got to thinking about, and I was going to say I might defer this to the manager, just kind of, I think veers a little bit off topic, but I think it hits on a area of relevancy right now, but how do I want to phrase this question? So understanding the MS4 permit process and, its important connection to environmental protection, with us having this permit, does this kind of give us a mechanism in place when we're talking about the possible future development of data centers to give that would set regulations for even a data center to follow when establishing, if they were to establish in the township?
Relying on the MS4 requirements? Is that for future development? Is that what you're?
Yeah.
Like a data center?
Because the way I understand with the MS4 permit, we have the ordinance in place, and we're held as even homeowners to like we were talking the illicit discharge.
Yeah.
That we are obligated by those regulations on how, let's say, we wash our car at our home. So. Stuff like that.
I'd defer to Adam on that. I think he would know better than I do.
So I will say, they're probably through the MS4, there would be no direct tie-in with, say, the water consumption or use of it. But as with any development activity, relating back to the MS4 is where, if you remember 2024, where we had to update key parts of the stormwater ordinance, it will keep us current with anything that comes out of the state or Harrisburg level. And as part of what they are rolling out as the general permit, they are envisioning a new manual to guide this. The previous one was developed 20 years ago in 2006. Now, if we think the timeline on the draft of the permit has been long, this forthcoming manual has also been in draft for quite some time, longer actually. But the goal is to roll them out in sequence, and that will help guide those development. From the data center developments I've seen, it does come into, they are massive impervious areas, but they're also massive water users. Right. So there could be areas or advantageous where if you have that new development, and say, we do already have some existing areas in limited areas where we require over the state's detention of volumes for historical flooding problems or different reasons. If there was a center or something like that was incorporated into the ordinance, that a volume capture that went above and beyond what the state minimum requirement is, again, this is where the record keeping comes in, it's very likely that that would be a benefit to our MS4 program, as well as helping to offset any of that development. And it's really just how you would craft that into the ordinance is probably going to be the main portion for it. And there's, quite frankly, a lot of different options, whether you're treating it as the impervious you're treating, or whether you're looking to incorporate some portion of the groundwater withdrawals if they were used well for water companies.
Yeah, just thinking of, the environmental concerns that a lot of people have raised, and, just kind of even looking at like, what do we have on the table today that, just kind of assessing as we go along. What do we have now as we talk about going into planning of futuristic?
What's on our a
other-
la carte menu?
Yeah.
What's on our a la carte menu? Yes.
Yeah, I think, one of the goals for tonight and just having this opportunity for further discussion on the presentation, I know in past years, there have been a number of questions, especially during the period that we had the stormwater fee, but allowing the board to have a chance to ask questions and to get the information that you need going forward, because I think some of what we've seen in the past with the PRP projects and the costs associated with them, certainly we're in a different era. The permit itself is changing. Some of the strategy that we might put forward in the coming years to stay ahead, because I believe, from all things considered, where we were at from the work that we did in the previous permit cycle, put the township in a really good position, and to continue to stay ahead of it and to continue to make progress, there might be other strategies that we're able to leverage that we haven't done in the past regarding some basin retrofits, and Adam can talk about that more in detail, but being able to leverage some of these different methods so that we continue to stay on top of things and we don't get caught in a situation where we have a major expense again and that we're on the good side of things. Certainly that's helped, where we're at today, because we did what we did before, even though it was a struggle then, we're certainly in a better position today. So I just wanted to give that room to the board to kind of see this from a different angle with some of the changes that are coming about with this permit cycle. So.
Thank you. I appreciate that information. Mr. Heller.
So, and I think for me, the rubber hits the road when we have those conversations like we did last year, where it was, do you want Beaver Branch in or don't you want it in? Because it'll give us this and you can get with this or you can get with that. 6, 7. I'll just throw all the analogies out there. But I think that, to me, is the important conversation then, is when we rely on staff to say, here are the options, here are the things that we want you to consider, taking into account however the MS4 program has changed. Again, I leave it to the folks that are smarter than me to be in that room and tell us then, hey, things have changed, here are the options, what do you want to do? And then we have those conversations. So that's the one that I'm really looking forward to, because I don't even need all the details then. Because the thing I'll be looking at really, I hate to say, is that financial aspect of it. And relying again on staff to say, these are the things that are going to get us there. And by the way, you might get more credits for a lower cost because of this. Great, go do that. So again, it's a future conversation, but I won't be in the weeds either at that point. Or in the reeds. But
I do consider that one of the advantages to us being an individual permit in good standing, and essentially having this extra 5-year grace period. Because in the previous permit term, as Supervisor Heller was alluding to, and James was alluding to, there certainly was a bang for your buck project over them. All had some environmental merit, but an example would be stream restoration in the previous permit was the best way for you to meet your requirement. Now, DEP has seen that and kind of eliminated that in that permit because it perhaps was too much of a good thing, or they didn't feel that they were getting that value. But we'll get an opportunity to see, because when you're talking about getting into the weeds or the reeds is on this one, those are the questions that are really going to be like those 1,800 questions and how the accounting will come into them, because that's items like, is the ordinance requiring over, how's that accounted for, how, if you retrofit a basin, like, what credit do you get in limits? And those are the ones that, until we see that final document, are gonna be really tough, but they're also the ones we're gonna be watching, because those nuances are where you can get value. An example from the previous PRP would have actually been, there was a different pound per linear foot credit that the Center Region got by developing that PRP than if you use the state minimum templates or if you use the other ones. And they increased, we basically got the highest maximum. But when you're doing that, or at engineering costs versus construction costs, that's always, it benefits us. And so if we can find ways to work it into the MS4 program, work it into developments, work it into existing basins that might only have peak rate tendencies, but we know we live in a highly infiltrated area, we've got options where retrofitting that basin costs much less than acquiring a new one, or working with the enhance the natural drainage ways via some of these RCS projects or different ones where there are grant funding agencies interested in it, and we're on property that's not slated for development because it's protected by floodplains, where you're kind of getting the dual use of enhancing natural. Those are all kind of things that we're going to be looking at to try to get the best result.
Anything else? If not, thank you very much, Adam. We will move over to our Center Region Council of Governments reports, and we'll start with the Joint Land Use and Community Infrastructure, Lucy, and Climate Action and Sustainability Committee. And I believe, well, you're on one of those.
I was unable to attend, and
okay.
Yeah, Supervisor White was there in my place for the one.
Okay. Did anyone have any questions for now on that, or we can always recall it at our next meeting when Supervisor White's back? If not, Public Safety Committee.
Nothing major to discuss from public safety. We've forwarded a couple of things to the Executive Committee for consideration of new vehicle for codes and amendment for fire, but they were very minimal.
Okay. Any questions on that one? If not, we'll go to Finance Committee.
So there's, as you would anticipate, there's a lot going on with CPI. I would just draw your attention to the first part of the report, where expectation when you bring in employee raises and other things, we might be looking at a bottom line in the 4.2 to 5.8% increases for salaries. Things are CPI. We're waiting for that to come out July 15th, and we'll have more information and data on what that's actually going to look like in our bottom line for COG. So please stay tuned for that. Again, we're leading up to a potential higher cost than we would have liked. There's also a CRPR concession sales tax. We realized that we were not collecting sales tax at the parks on things that we were selling. It looks like we're about $32,000 in back taxes that we would owe, so we're falling on the sword to say, hey, state, please forgive us any penalties, etc. So there might be like a non-filing penalty as well as a late penalty and interest, etc. But we are hoping that it's not going to cost, well, like I said, it's $32,000 in back. We don't know what it would be when it's all calculated or what the state might say. But the state is usually rather forgiving when we come and we say, we found this issue. Right. It is being resolved going forward. And by the way, for those that may not know, the only things that are not taxable are water and candy. I'll give you one guess why candy isn't taxed here in Pennsylvania with a large candy. Anyway, yeah, the mind can boggle. So the other thing too, the fund balance policy, which by the way, I appreciate everybody here, municipal comments were gathered. There weren't a lot. And that will be coming in front of General Forum on the 26th for hopefully approval there of the fund balance policy. that would be Warren's first day, I guess. So Bob's his uncle. He will be attending that, I guess. And then finally, I want to direct everyone's attention to the GFOA PA conference materials that was put together by COG and with municipal, with also finance directors and others. It was an amazing presentation that Kimberly and COG did at GFOA. So please take a look at that. There was a toolkit. Other municipalities reached out to say, how do you do this? They provided everything. There was awareness, there were deeper dives, there were risks, and the toolkit that folks could, like I said, go back and talk to their municipalities about. Really an incredible thing that was put together by COG. But anyway, I'm happy to answer any questions related to any of that. And sorry there are so many items, but it was a rather in-depth and expansive discussion.
Anything from Mr. Heller? Awesome. If not, Ad hoc Parks and Library Committee.
We met today and we were just discussing the, everything is always about trying to reduce committees. And unfortunately, it always seems like everything's going to end up to finance. So it's how do we thread that needle, so that we're not having the finance committee be the NW. But but it yes, exactly. But we had in-depth discussions about the roles of people on the library board and the paperwork that they sign, and then also Parks for the authority members had put together a sort of a pamphlet, a trifold pamphlet, to discuss the roles and responsibilities of being an authority member, just to help everybody understand what they're getting into, their fiduciary responsibility, and what is our fiduciary responsibility, because it's something that gets talked about, but nobody really discusses what that means. And so it was just a discussion around that, and that was basically where we left it off. We were going to talk about the different municipalities and their recruiting for ABCs, because it's about trusting the recommendations that come forward to COG and the general forum from our authority members and our board, library board members, and how that all fits into the web of COG. And so it's been interesting discussions. So trying to figure out, should we make like a parks and library an ad hoc as needed kind of thing, or parks capital as needed when there is a big project, a la Millbrook Marsh or something. But anyway, just trying to figure out the best structure. Yes.
I will just say, anything that gets finance out of being the, as our chair would say, the judge, jury, and executioner
Exactly.
is appreciated.
Yes.
Because that was the way maybe it used to be, and
Right.
I know what you're bringing to the table, what others electeds are bringing to the table, is moving us away from that, and that's important, so thank you.
Exactly. It's about just the communication and realizing that even our members of boards and authorities are volunteers as well. And business trips come up, family vacations come up, you miss a meeting, and sometimes it's a critical thing, or you miss a presentation to your local municipality. So just more ears.
Yeah.
Yep. That's all.
Okay. I was going to say, if nothing further, any communications to the board?
Just the one about solar.
Yep. I had solar as well as some concerns over at Coral Street Elementary, but staff has been working on that. Any other communications? Okay. Calendar items, we do have the future land use map open house on June 8th at 5 p.m. The public is welcome to come in. Usually there's opportunities to look over some things as well as provide input, and then both the board and the planning commission then will meet at 6 o'clock on the same matter, but the public is welcome to continue to stay and join the proceedings live I think do they also have CNET scheduled? So if so, it would also be available on CNET later if anyone can't make it, but.
We can confirm, but it's a regular planning meeting, so they should be.
Oh, okay, so So they will be here because it is normally Planning Commission's night. Well, I'm so glad to be able to join them here. With that, I was going to say I do have one more thing. If anyone else had any other, yes, Mr. King, and then I have something for you.
Just a couple calendar items that didn't get on the calendar because they just came in since the calendar was. I just wanted to mention.
Yeah.
One is the Cecil Irvin Park has a community design workshop on June 3rd, and there's a flyer that Jenna put at all of your places here tonight. So encourage people to be involved in that. There'll be outreach to all the people who live in that vicinity and other stakeholders. James and Jen have been working with the person doing the workshop presentation, so that should be a good time.
And my apologies, you said July, but it says June.
I'm sorry, June. I apologize. June 3rd.
Just want to make sure.
Good.
Public.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Good catch. June 3rd. So coming up here before too long. Also, there's been a lot of conversations about data centers. So on the website, our communications folks have put on, anybody that has input on data centers can go on our website and submit any of their ideas in case they can't be at meetings. Don't want to come to meetings and submit the ideas. It's on our website to do. And also, I think through the chair today, there's a HUD housing workshop survey that's on the website. That's through Patton Township, and our residents are encouraged to go on and look at that survey to see what kind of HUD housing topics they would like covered during that workshop. And then the last thing is that we have talked a while about having a retreat. We tried to do it early in February or March. Dates didn't work out. I've talked to the new manager and talking with staff. We thought potentially, if the board is so inclined, that either the second or third week of June, before you get into the thick of the CIP budget, and certainly well before you get into the operating budget, with the new manager on board, that we do a 4 or 5 hour workshop here at the municipal building where the finance director can go over where we stand financially. It will help you with budget decisions going forward. And then also the second part of that session would be priority setting, so that we could really help give staff and give the new manager clear direction on where we want to set priorities for the coming 12 to 18 months or so, to get everybody aligned and moving forward. So wanted to see if the board would like to try to schedule that workshop retreat the second or third week of June. Is there anybody opposed to that?
Not opposed. Just probably need a doodle poll on that or something. Yeah, it's scheduled.
Yeah.
I did discuss it with Warren, and he knows that it would be early on, but with staff support with the department directors, it also give him a really good idea of what are the priorities, and get everybody aligned at once would help him moving forward as well. It also would be just prior to the budget workshops.
Any questions? Not speaking of new manager, so tonight is actually Manager King's last meeting. He's been here with us since at least our first meeting in January.
Yes.
Well, yeah, you were here, but yeah, first meeting in January since the departure of the former manager, and just want to thank you for supporting us during these past 5 months and helping us through the transition and the selection of the new manager. You've done a phenomenal job even before coming in as manager, helped get the police department filled with the vacancy of a new police chief and helping get them ahead. And you've even filled an HR vacancy, and I'm sure countless others, and just appreciate that. Just keeping us consistent and whatnot. And as a token of our appreciation, the board wanted to treat you and your family to a good meal here in Pine Grove Mills. So we will get that to you. And
Thank you so much.
Yep.
I very much appreciate that. And I just like to thank the board for, having the confidence in me to step in and help out during these 5 or 6 months. And I have to thank staff, because the staff here around the table, especially the staff throughout the entire township, have just been so helpful, helping me get through it. So things that I've been able to do has only been because of all of them being able to spoon feed me and tell me the right direction and help me get through things. So I really want to thank staff, but I also want to thank the Board of Supervisors for all of your support. And I really enjoyed it. You have a wonderful township, a great group of staff, good Board of Supervisors, and the future's bright.
Yep.
So, thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Now, he's got to go with one of the supervisors, though, to dinner. That was the plan.
Not family, right? It's gotta
That's
be-
right. Have to pick one.
there should be enough you can, however many you want in your own party. You could probably even rent out the whole restaurant if you have enough friends you want to take with you.
Well, thank you so much. That's very nice.
Thank you. With nothing further, Ms. Stevens, would you
Motion
like
to
to
adjourn.
present item 11? All right, we're adjourned. Have a good evening, everyone.
Thank you, everybody.
The big thunder.